In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to thread the machine, starting from the cone of thread, going up through the thread stand, through the pre-tensioner, the thread tubes, and then on down all the way through to the needle. Beginning at the back, where you place the thread on, you're going to set your cone of thread down, and then you're going to locate the series of thread guides which correspond to the spot on the machine. You start here at needle number 1, needle 2, needle 3, needle 4, needle 5, needle 6, needle 7, needle 8, needle 9, needle 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. And there's a corresponding set of thread guides for each. For instance, needle number 1 only has one thread guide, and it's directly above where needle number 1 sits. Needle number 2 sits at the back of the thread rack, so it has 3 thread guides going forward to the pre-tensioner. So that's actually the one I'm going to thread now. I'm starting with needle number 2. So I start at the back. I twist a little bit of thread together so it's a little easier to work with. Feed it through all 3 of the thread guides until I get up to my pre-tensioner. I'm going to feed the thread then through the top part of the thread tensioner, around the right side just half a turn until I get to the thread tube. From the thread tube, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to remove the thread tube. Going to give me a nice clean cut of the thread here. I'm going to thread a needle. I'm going to use the needle and gravity to feed the thread through the tube. Going to rehang my thread tube here, and then rehang my thread tube there. Once I have my thread at this point, I have another thread guide that I'm going to feed the thread underneath, and then into the tensioner. I'm going to go around the right side of the tensioner. And then you'll notice there's a little tab. I'm going to go to the left of the little tab that's underneath here. Then I'm going to go to the right side of this thread guide. I'm going to go around the guide on this side, up and over the thread brake sensor, back to the left-hand side of the lower guide, down to this guide, and now I'm down to the point where I'm ready to start threading the lower half of my thread path. At this point, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to thread my check spring and guide. You'll notice on your Hyland machine you have a little lever on the side that raises and lowers this series of check springs. If I raise the check spring up, I'm able to feed my thread through from right to left, through around both of the guides and through the the check spring. And then it goes back up, so it goes down to the right side of take-up lever number 2, from right to left through the guides and the check spring. So I can push my check spring back down. Then it's going to go from right to left through the take-up lever of needle number 2, back down, and there's another thread guide to the left side of the check spring on needle number 2. And then directly below that, there's yet another guide down here. And now I'm ready to thread my needle. To thread the needle, I want to get a good clean cut on my thread. I'm just going to feed it from the front straight through to the back. And then down through the hole in the presser foot. After threading the entire thread path, before you start sewing, you want to ensure that the thread pulls smoothly through the entire path. So, grab the thread that you just threaded and go ahead and pull maybe a foot or two of it and ensure that as you're pulling it that everything comes nice and smooth. If it doesn't come nice and smoothly, then it could be that you've got something tangled in the thread path or in one of the tensioners going back up through the path. So just ensure that everything is as it was when you threaded it and that it pulls nice and smoothly. From time to time, you'll find that it's necessary to put a new cone of thread on to change either from a thread color that's just run out or about to run out, or when you need a color of thread that's not on the machine. In order to avoid having to rethread the entire thread path, what you're going to do is you're going to use a knot that will allow you to pull the new color of thread all the way through the eye of the needle. I'm going to demonstrate that knot. First, take the old cone that you're replacing off the thread stand and set the new cone in its place. Next, get a generous amount of the thread of both colors so that you can make a loop with the old color that you're taking off the machine, and you're going to feed the cone back through the loop of the color you're removing from the machine. Pull that thread nice and tight and break it loose from the cone. Then take the color you're replacing and begin to pull it carefully through the thread path. As you do, that thread should come all the way down and right through the eye of the needle. Hang it up in the spring and cut the excess off.